With more than 100 years of experience between the four of them, covering Minnesota high school athletics, the Minnesota Sun newspaper's sports editors bring you Sun on Sports.
Welcome to Sun on Sports. I'm your host, John Sherman, and we're here today with Mike Shaughnessy and Greg Kleven, my colleagues and esteemed sports writers for Sun newspapers. Well, this is our Super Soccer segment. We've got some big soccer stories to cover, and we also have some opinions on who we think might be some of the top candidates for the Miss and Mr. Soccer of Minnesota awards. Mike, let's start out with our breaking story that's coming up down the pike, and that's Chuck Scanlon of Apple Valley going for the all-time victory record. Can you tell us a little bit about Chuck and how close he is to that record?
Well, it looks like it's going to happen at some point this year, John. There's a little bit of discrepancy, I believe, between Apple Valley's record keeping and the Minnesota Soccer Coaches Association record keeping. On the Coaches Association website, they had Scanlon credited with 487 victories coming into this year. Apple Valley's record keeping has him at 494. It's probably reasonable to assume that that the school's record keeping is more accurate, but what that means is if Apple Valley wins its first 5 non-conference games, and they were favored in pretty heavily in all of them, they're the number 1 team in the state this year. That would put Scanlon on pace to have a chance to tie the career victories record on Tuesday's. It would have been Tuesday, September 8th against Eden Prairie. That if they won that game, they would have played Thursday, September 10th at Chanhassen with a chance for him to break the record. The existing record is 500 victories. It was set by Guido Calls, who coached for many years at Minnehaha Academy, retiring in 2000.
Guido Calls was one of the men who started soccer in Minnesota, and he was there at the beginning with Rudy Martiniaco of Richfield, Laszlo Zendri of Edina, one of the great coaches of all time. This would be a cherished record for Mr. Scanlon for sure. Greg, did you ever think we'd see a soccer coach get 500 wins? Now, keep in mind, they don't play as many games as hockey and basketball, some of the other sports. 500 is a big number, isn't it?
Yes, I remember when they started. They started club soccer and then they went to interscholastic soccer and stuff. Yeah, to get that many wins is just incredible for any coach, much less soccer, because, like you say, they don't play as many games as some of the other sports like hockey or basketball and stuff. So, yeah, that's just a tremendous feat.
Basically, you have to be around 30 plus years as a soccer coach to have a chance to get 500 victories, and Scanlon, I believe, is in his 32nd year at Apple Valley.
Mike, what are a couple of the things that you see in Scanlon's system that make him such a good coach?
Well, his teams always seem to be very athletic. A lot of quick players on their team. They also, in years past, and including this past summer, they tend to have a fair number of players who play on the same summer team. That's one thing I hear a lot from high school soccer coaches. They have kids splinter off into several different summer programs at different age levels. Apple Valley, for instance, this year had, I believe, 7 kids play on the same under 17 premier team. That's got to help with continuity, and they tend to have a fair amount of kids coming back most years. They have a very strong youth soccer program. I think they play a pretty high tempo, aggressive style that players seem to like.
A high tempo style is what I think of when I think of Apple Valley. I've seen some great playoff games with Apple Valley. Year after year, they're strong, they're aggressive, they're quick to the ball, win a lot of 50-50 balls, and I think they take a lot of pride in that aggressive style of soccer. Let's talk a little bit about some of the top candidates for the Miss and Mr. Soccer Awards. Just like in basketball with the Mr. and Miss Basketball Awards, we have these awards every year that go to soccer players, the best in the state. Greg, how about your area? Any top candidates this year?
I think we have one top candidate from Bloomington Jefferson, a senior forward and I think slash midfielder, Marin Worth. This is her fifth varsity season. She's a seasoned Lake performer, all-state, all-conference last year. Starts this season by scoring the game-winning goal in a 2-1. I believe it was a 2-1 overtime win over Prior Lake. Just a very clutch athlete, very versatile. She can do a little bit of everything. You know, you don't want to just put her down as a forward or slash a midfielder. I mean, she plays the field and very an aggressive athlete. I think she's a top candidate for that Miss Soccer Award.
Mike, any girls in your area who are tearing it up, who look like they're Miss Soccer candidates?
Well, there's a girl at Egan, a forward named Courtney Valarelli, who should have a good season for them. She was among their leading scorers last year. Is a very fast player, sprints for the track team. She plays for a coach and who plays a style that tries to get the ball to the forwards in position to get good shots. The Egan girls don't really play a conservative style, so Courtney could conceivably put up the kind of numbers that would get her noticed for an award like that.
I've got a pretty good forward in my coverage area. That's Julie Sirks from Edina. They played Jefferson in a great game last week. Edina ended up winning 4-2 with 2 goals from Julie. And she was the leading Class AA scorer in the state last year with 27 goals. Looks like she'll have at least as many this year. So there are some players to watch, and I think we've each picked out a pretty good one. Now we'll see how those stats bear out.
Stay tuned for more Sun on Sports, your insider's guide to Minnesota high school athletics. For the scores and more, tune in daily to mnsun.com/sports. And tune in every Saturday morning to Sun on Sports on AM 950, the voice of Minnesota.